Connecting the software. There I am. I see me.
Unless there's a complaint.
Somebody popped in.
Oh, I don't have a notification yet.
Oh, somebody popped off. Popped in, popped out.
Pop,
pop, pop, pop. I do have it on public. So we're good.
Yeah, so what's up then?
I don't know. We're not getting our people.
Not getting a notification.
Says we have an excellent connection.
Let me see if I can manage to get on it somehow.
The universe has decided we're not allowed to talk to anybody today. It's 2:02. My.
It says live now, but I didn't get the notification.
Oh, there's 2 people.
So I don't know why.
Well, maybe the internet is laggy.
I don't think that sounded the best either.
Jonathan, hi. Nice to see you back. I got your email. I have it queued up so I can refer to it. I can remember all the different questions. Are we sounding okay?
Sounds good.
Ian says we're sounding good. We got rid of that echo, finally. Thank goodness. Ian, you are awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, he says. So 2 more people have joined us. So I had fun doing that last video, trying to remember some of my adventures in the astral and mental plane. That's certainly not all of them by a long shot, but... Ryder, hello, how are you both? Yay, Ryder, hi. And Johnny, hello. Hello to you, Johnny. Nice to see you here. And Saul says greetings. Hi, Saul. Jonathan says, you sound great. Thank you for reading my email. You're welcome. It's always good to sort of, decide exactly what it is you want to work on and what you want to do with what you have to work on. But as to your questions about animals having chakras, yes, indeed, they do have chakras. At least I feel that they have chakras. So that's the simple answer. And I think they are generally in the same places that ours are. They may not use them the same way. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe that is true, though it's been so long since I read anything about it. But yeah, basically the same opinion. Same chakras, same kundalini that activates everything, keeps everything alive.
Jill's arrived. Hi, Jill. Thank you for coming. All right. That's probably enough of my coffee. Get down to brass tacks, as they say.
I guess they don't like painted cats.
John Quinn has arrived. Hello, John. So we have a John, a Jonathan, and a Johnny.
Okay, then.
I'll have to try and keep them straight. I don't know. I get confused easily. I had one heck of a night last night. I mean, when I went to bed. It's been fairly quiet on the ferry front. I mean, just a few visitors here and there. Last night, apparently, everybody decided to come by and say hi. So Saul says, I astral travel a lot, but only get a glimpse of what I'm doing. How can I remember more? Practice. It's the only thing that works. You just keep trying until you can remember more.
Yeah, it might help though, writing them down.
Sort of like with dream journaling.
Yeah, just the idea of keeping it there, making it solid, and then it'll be more likely to come up in your dream next time, and might trigger things a little sooner so you start remembering them.
The astral travels. Writer says, loved your latest video about astral travel, especially the military base experience. Yeah, that was a surprise. I was quite startled by deciding to dive under the highway just to see what was there because I'd never done it before. And the last thing I could say pretty much in the universe that I expected to find was a secret military underground base under the highway we were traveling on. That was definitely...
In hindsight, it's not surprising since we know a lot more about what the government did at that time.
True. But, and then the fact that they noticed me was another surprise. I mean, usually when I'm astral mental traveling or whatever, if I'm in a place and there's people around, they don't pay attention. They don't notice that I'm there. So it's kind of like you're invisible and a ghost or something, or just sort of peeking in or whatever. So that was another big surprise when suddenly they knew I was there, and that's why I got the heck out. And then the vehicles showing up on the highway or on the mountains around us sort of confirmed my experience, because I was just telling everyone in the car what I'd seen under the highway, and they're like, yeah, uh-huh. And then these military jeeps with men and rifles and stuff just started appearing on both sides of the highway on those little dirt roads up in the mountains, and I'm like, all right, let's just keep on going and hope they can't figure out which car I'm in. So we got away. But yeah, that was definitely interesting. So I always try to look for validation if I have an experience like that, and they certainly supplied it. So Jonathan says, in some of my energy work, I naturally imagined planet Earth's energy entering my body a little under my belly button. I think you call it the hara. What are the associations of that chakra?
Well, that chakra is the Manipura in the Hindu. It's associated with things that go on in that area in your body and outside of it. So you've got like the digestion process happening. So it's associated with what they call the digestive fire. It's the center of fire. Earth element would normally connect through the Muladhara, which is at the base of the spine, at your basically where your perineum is. You have the root chakra, and that one normally connects with the earth. So there can be all kinds of things associated with that. It's a little bit about survival because you've got the whole eating and not starving type of thing there. So
willpower, I think,
willpower, definitely, yes.
And sort of like life force energy, like, because it connects. It's very similar to what the New Age system with the solar plexus associations have. They just kind of moved the spot up, but I think they kept pretty much the same associations as the other system.
So yeah, that pretty much describes it.
Writer says, and the one where you were constipated and popped out had me giggling. Yeah, that was seeing that big, huge, giant plutonian floating in the room with me in the bathroom, and then my friend floating next to him. Yeah, that was apparently that kind of pushing. It just like popped me out of my body. It was another unexpected event. No, not earth elemental, planetary energy coming through me.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's however you connect with that. You can probably connect to that through any chakra.
Through that planet the association with that chakra, if you were to go planetary, I believe is Mars. In at least how Western authors have attributed it.
Well, whatever makes you connect to the earth is good in my book.
Yeah, I agree. Though there's a global, a planetary Gaia Earth entity there also, and I'm not sure how I would put that into a chakra sense, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So someone named F-SG has arrived. Hi. Hi. What do we call you? Because it's kind of hard to say F_SG every time I talk to you. For my ease of mind and my ease of conversational style, you could give me a name to call you by, like Johnny did. So I would have something to say. But yeah. So welcome to our thing. Apparently we are like space cadets today. So as I was saying, with my experiences I had last night, I had about 20 or 30 different nature spirits and fae come calling. And it was interesting because, I mean, that's the most I've had in a single event. And I closed my eyes when I went to bed, and I had this like bright white kind of blop kind of thing, not geometric at all, and it was very clearly bright white, and then the rest of it was dark around it, and the faces came out of that white spot, and one of them, I was looking at the face and I was trying to figure out, it looked kind of odd, and then I realized it was upside down, and it was like I was laying on my side, and he was over my head and hanging his face down this way in front of my face for me to see him, and I started laughing. And there was a lot of different styles of faces and features and stuff, some male, some female looking, some soft, some hard, some looked like they were made out of roots or bark or something, and there was one right in front of me that was a small one with like butterfly-shaped wings. Didn't see colors, I just saw the clear outlines of all of them, and all that other stuff. So Jonathan says, fascinating, thank you, Ian. I think what you guys are saying is the hara is associated with primal energy and pooping? No. Well, I guess so, with digestion. So FSG says, my name is Beatrice. You can call me that. So hi, Beatrice. Nice to meet you. It's Me says, do you know a love spell that works? The answer is no. Well, it does, but it doesn't. It's like love spells are the ones that backfire the most on people. The only real love spell that I would recommend would be one that allows you to learn how to love yourself, not one that tries to get someone else to love you, because that is, I think, ethically questionable at best and morally wrong at worst, depending on how you're going about it. So I don't recommend love spells except for self-discovery kind of things, loving who you are, where you're at, your body, style, and shape, being in the moment, that kind of stuff.
And yeah, I have evidence of how they go wrong by a friend of mine who kept doing love spells, and they kept working to his detriment. One of them ended up with him being together with a young lady who told him she was over 18, and she wasn't. She was 16, and she was the daughter of the towns of one of these small, sheriff of one of these small towns in Oregon, like Rogue River or Gold Beach or something. I don't remember quite now, but so he was he did things that worked generally, but it was always like the trickster thing where it kind of backfired on him somehow, and I think that was just him for some reason.
So Beatrice says, nice to meet you too. Thank you. Jonathan says, it's me. I recommend personal attractiveness spells instead. Aphrodite is great for that type of working. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're confident and good with yourself and comfortable in your own skin and like who you are, you're going to naturally be more attractive to other people, male or female, depending on your preferences. And really, in a relationship, if you want to be in a good, healthy relationship, one that's going to last, then you want to attract people who are like you. So being yourself and who you are is the only way to do that. Because if you start off pretending to be something else or trying to like sway someone in your direction that's maybe not that interested in you, then you're starting a relationship on a lie and it'll fall apart later. Because, that's one of the things I like about Ian and I. He was always himself, regardless. And he always insisted on me being myself. And because of that, we have a very strong relationship. And
Of course, I want to know you, not all this veneer everybody puts up.
right, and it's a common thing for social interactions that people put their best foot forward, dress up in order to impress or that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with it in general, but if what you're after is a meaningful relationship, if the person thinks you are what you present yourself to be and you're not, then they're going to be mightily disappointed when the truth comes out later, and you as well. I mean, if you meet someone and you think that they're interested in your stuff and they pretend to be interested in what you like and so forth in order to reel you in, and then later it's like whoop, completely, switcheroo, then you're also going to be disappointed. So
Yeah, nobody can maintain an illusion forever.
no. And if you become the illusion, then you're being yourself. Then it's no longer an illusion, so you don't have to maintain it. That's why, truth is always the easiest thing to remember because it's the truth. And
Well, that's just it. You don't have to remember it.
you don't have to remember it. It just, you're recalling what happened, not trying to fabricate something or remember what you told this person versus this other person and so forth. Some people are really good at that and can get away with it for a long time, but even the best of them ends up being found out eventually, and it really doesn't seem like a good foundation for having a meaningful relationship. It's Me says, I don't care if it's immoral, I want one anyway. Well, you'll have to find one yourself then, because I'm not giving it to you.
There's a lot of them out there. They're easy to find.
Do yourself a search on Google. You'll find all kinds of people who are willing to give you a love spell and do one for you for a fee. So, I already forgot her name. I'm terrible. Anyway, yes. Whose name I just forgot because my brain is like Swiss cheese today. Beatrice, that's it. I got to look. What do you think about mental illnesses like acute psychosis or depression? Some people say it's kind of a spiritual awakening. I think that depends upon what's going on. I mean, in some cases it might be, but I think that it's an ill-advised assumption to make when it's happening, because there are different chemicals that are running through the brain and different genetics that people inherit from other people. Like in Ian's family, schizophrenia runs in the family, so that was something we were concerned with for a period of time. He's well past the age that would happen, so we're sort of in the clear. But there are some cases of there was a psychiatrist who actually recognized that some of his patients that he thought were mentally ill were actually having a Kundalini awakening, and he started to notice the differences between the symptoms and got those people out of institutions that he had put them in. And so that would be a spiritual awakening that can disguise itself as a possible mental illness. But there's nothing that's completely one size fits all, and there's not just one answer or one conclusion. A set of symptoms can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah, and go ahead. My brain went blank.
Okay. John, this is not a fair comparison. Ian is the coolest guy ever. Few people are as cool as Ian. Well, thank you. I agree. I'm so glad he figured out our echo issue and tracked it down yesterday or the day before. I guess it was the day before because they did my video yesterday afternoon.
Hopefully it'll stay away now.
Well, and I checked to make sure it wasn't there, so we finally figured out what my computer, it did it by itself. I love it when computers have ideas of their own. It's just annoying when they turn on stuff that's not supposed to be there. So It's Me says, isn't it likely that people who do spells for a fee are scammers? Well, yeah,
Pretty likely.
it's
Yeah.
pretty likely. So you want to find a spell to do yourself? It's like you're free to do whatever you want. It's your free will. But if you impose your will on somebody else, there will be consequences to pay. That's the way it works.
And I would assume for money, if you don't know any of the people personally and know that they won't scam you, you can pretty much assume it's just money tossed in the garbage can as far as results go.
Well, there's a lot
likely.
of hoodoo practitioners and other types that advertise doing love spells for people. Some of them may or may not be scammers. It's hard for me to tell.
Yeah.
I just know that it's not something I believe in and not something I promote. So, that's my own personal ethics.
Yeah. So,
Make your own spell, Soul says. Yes, that's another thing. Make your own spell. Then you don't have to worry about it being someone else's. And I mean, the thing is, if you're going to buy ingredients for a spell, some of them will sell you a kit, like with the ingredients in it. I don't know. Writer says, as the Joker said, if you are good at something, you shouldn't do it for free. Or something like that. Some are scammers, some genuine. Well, yes, and there's no reason why someone shouldn't get paid for their time and for their knowledge if they are knowledgeable in the field that they're promoting.
yeah, and you will find some knowledgeable ones that will charge you and do things for a fee.
I think with this kind of stuff, it's always best if you can do that kind of a spell yourself, any kind of a personal spell, because, the idea is you're trying to develop a relationship with the universe and you're telling the universe what you want. So if you're using someone else's, then you're telling the universe what they want. You see what I mean? Maybe? Jonathan says, here's a love spell. On a Friday night, ask Aphrodite to help you be your beautiful best self. Anoint a candle with Van oil, burn it safely. When it's finished, then you're beautiful. That's a lovely spell. I like that very much, Jonathan. I totally approve of that kind of love spell. Thank you. So anyway, any questions about the video besides the few that we've gotten here? The astral mental travel and
I
stuff.
think there's plenty of Jonathan's we haven't answered yet.
Oh, did I miss one? Oh, the ones that are in the email.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. I do have a couple of those. One was on, what are you doing? This wasn't what I wanted it to do. I wanted to go there. So, the ethics of using magic to create an egregore to harass people into taking the vaccine was one of his questions. And it's an interesting question because...
Yeah, it's kind of a good question. And I don't really have an answer for it myself. I mean, I could pop out some general stuff, but I've wondered about several things like why wasn't there a mass group of people to like change, to get rid of Trump or something magically?
Because everybody has different opinions.
I always usually decide not to do those things or to attempt things. I mean, I don't mean like taking down Trump personally or anything like that, but yeah, I got a target. I'm sorry. I had to take some pain reliever before we started chatting, and it's got me a little
loopy.
He's
a little loopy.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that maybe an egregore to do that is kind of trying to create itself right now because of, the media trying to fight against the misinformation about vaccines. I've been noticing this either or kind of mentality that's going on, which I don't understand. It's like either you believe in your immune system and its ability to fight off a disease, or you believe in a vaccine. I believe in both. I see no reason not to give my body every possible opportunity to defend itself against any invader so that I can stay here, because that's my goal right now, is not to leave, is to stay here. And so, I think since there's one already kind of casually forming on its own, that you could tap into that and just add your own energy to it. And it's kind of trying to create itself. Who knows what this battle between these sides might look like on the other planes. It'd be sort of an interesting thing to sort of look. Ryder says, I want some loopy. We found the kratom is actually helping his pain levels while we're waiting to see the doctor. His appointment with the surgeon is a week from tomorrow. So Johnny said, today when I was hiking in some canyons, I saw faces on rocks and trees. Are these nature spirits revealing themselves? They can be. They can also be just that tendency of the human brain to form faces out of everything and anything it sees. We're sort of hardwired to try and recognize potential predators and danger and stuff like that. So whenever we look at things, our brain is trying to see, is there like a face in this that will tell me what this might be if it's a hazard. But I certainly have seen spirit beings that way myself, and they can sort of use that as a method.
Yeah, and it can start off like being that, and then turn into like, I saw pretty much
The bear?
3D apparition of a bear's face. It started as, some lines and surface features of the trees, but it turned into an extremely detailed, specific bear face, which is way more detailed than anything I could remember or try to draw or anything like that. And where there was 2 holes through the tree where light came through, that was his bright blue eyes from the bright blue sky behind there. And whatever that was, and I don't really know, by the way, there were no drugs. This was sober.
Yeah.
Just,
Clarification.
So, I don't know what that is or where it came from, but whatever it is, it was a lot more than just seeing lines on the trees. It led to something deeper, so
don't discount it.
Discount those things.
Yeah,
also.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like keeping a healthy amount of skepticism after an experience happens, so that you can look at it and then decide, exactly what it is that was happening. When you can get like independent corroboration or verification from if someone else sees exactly the same thing, has the same feeling, and stuff like that, that can help to add to the sense of validity for the experience. But the reality is that, undoubtedly that is one of the ways that nature spirits try to communicate with us, by showing themselves through those shapes that we see. And you're the only one who knows exactly how it felt, because you were there in person. I know some of the experiences that I have seem so outlandish that a lot of people would think that they couldn't have happened, even though I was there and I know what was going on, and even though sometimes I had, witnesses with me and stuff. And so I never discount someone's interpretation of that kind of thing, because I don't know if I'm not there. So does that answer your question or your query somewhat? So Soul says, it seems to be a bit of an overstep, in my opinion. People should be able to choose freely without excessive influence. There's enough mental influence in the world. Is that about the egregore, or is that about the love spell?
I think that's probably still more about the love spell.
Could be sort of about both in a way. Yeah.
You got a good point there. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah. So Ryder says that Johnny, brilliant, love it when I see things like that. Johnny says, that was what I was feeling, like they were using the faces in the trees to let me know they were there. It was an area where there used to be heavy Native American presence. Awesome. So Moonfire Dawn says, an ethical love spell is to draw in the person who would love you, not a specific person. That's true.
Yeah, that's definitely...
Because if you're doing a specific person, then you're trying to, like, subsume someone else's will. So, Jonathan says, it's soul. This is the entirety of my question. Thank you. If a child is going to get burned, is it not partially my responsibility as a magical person to use magic to protect that child? I guess could be yes, but again, some people would say the child needs to get burned in order to learn not to touch it.
Yeah, that's really such a deep question when you come down to it that I don't have a good answer for you, because the only thing I can come up with is that every situation needs to be considered on its own for its own merits, and go with your heart at that point, I would say, ultimately.
I wish there was a simple answer, and I wish we could snap our fingers and just make everybody do what we think is the right thing. Unfortunately, their free will gets in our way. And gets in my way. Canary says, hello, everyone. Hi, Canary. Nice to see you. Ryder says, have you thought about asking them out on the date? Instead of trying to do a love spell on them? That would seem like a good first step. Then find out if you like them or not. I mean, that's a lot of energy to put into getting someone to love you if they ended up, not liking you or you not liking them. Especially if you don't like them, then you're stuck with them. Yeah. Canary says hi to Jonathan, and Ryder says hi to Canary, and Jonathan says hi to Canary, and they're all having fun, back and forth. Glad to see you back. Ryder says, very good, busy with work, but other than that, chilled and moved up a level on my yoga. Canary says, I am sulky because no one responded to my invocation. It is said you should do this one more than once, as they can test you, but I can only afford so much honeyed mead. Well, you could always make your own, I guess. I'm sorry. All right. Canary at Ryder says, awesome. Ryder says, excuse my apathy towards love spells, but of all the types of spells out there, I don't like love spells. I don't either, so we're on the same page with that one. Desidratum says, hello, everyone. Hi, Desidratum. Canary says, I went to do Reiki with an Egyptian twist, can't spell the name, and my gas went out, and my phone went out of power, and my electricity went out, and no one would call me a taxi. Yes, if there was ever a sign not to go somewhere, that does sound kind of like a sign, big time. I'm like, whoa.
Don't miss G.
I won't.
John Sucker.
That's Johnny. I wanted to finish her sentence, though,
Right,
since she
right,
had to do it in pieces.
Yeah.
Johnny says, when mental traveling, how can you tell if you are just imagining or not? And that's the trick, because on one level you can't. you can't tell if you're just imagining it or not, because it is a product of your imagination. You are using your imagination to be able to go there. However, if you are totally present and focused and you find things unexpected, that's usually a good indication that you're actually somewhere. Generally speaking, if everything happens exactly as you planned, you're probably making it up in your head. That's been my experience. And so far, we'll say like, okay, I did a healing, mental travel healing on an infant that was in a hospital up in Portland in their NICU unit there, or ICU, I guess it wasn't a premature birth. My daughter called me up on the phone and said, her friend's baby was dying and the doctors didn't know why, and would I do a healing? And so I went up there in my mind, and it had 2 guardian angels, one at each end, and I asked them if the baby wanted to stay here or not, and if I should do a healing, and they did their usual enigmatic, it's up to you. This is a human thing. We can't tell you what to do. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. You're just so helpful. And so I gave the baby healing energy in a balloon and handed it to the infant, and said, if you want to stay here, here it is for you to use, and if not, then you can just let go. And then the next day I went back to see how things were going and couldn't find it anywhere in the hospital. I was looking all over the place trying to find it, and I called up my daughter, and I'm like, what happened? I can't find the baby. And she says, oh, it got better, and they let it out, and they don't know why it got better because they never knew why it was sick. And so if it had just been my imagination, I probably would have found it again, and I would have been doing another healing on it because that would have been more satisfying for me and my mental, inhabitants in my head. So the fact that I didn't find it and it was true that it was no longer there kind of corroborated and validated it. So the only way to really know that is to try it out, see what happens, write down what you did and what you saw, and then see if there's any way for you to get like real world independent corroboration of the thing, whatever it is. So that's what I would recommend. Ryder says at Canary, blessed you had an eventful week by the sounds of it. Desert Autumn says, may be good to consider your own karma before intruding on anyone's free will. Yeah, that's what I would suggest for anything we do. Canary says, I hate love spells. Why would you do that? Does it not bother you that the person might not really love you or you're forcing them to be a slave to their own emotion, basically? Yeah, we've kind of made that clear. Jonathan had a message that was held for review.
Yes.
Okay. So Canary says, it's been a challenge. Ended up having to get a bus to my friends who were out. Sony sat sulking on their porch waiting for them to come back for an hour before a neighbor took pity. Saul says, I think the difference is when it's focused imagination, then everything happens according to your will. Yeah, that's what I said, isn't it? I always love it when I come upon my own comments as I go down farther. If it's mental projection, then there are interactive elements that are more dynamic. Canary says, on me, and let me wait there until they came and we got the gas, and Mexico sort of, which just involved flicking a switch, and I was so off. That's all it took after that drama. Well, all right then. Ryder says, to Canary, very true. Some say it's no different to the date rape drug. Others I have met say the love spell does not work unless they have some attraction to the person casting. Yes. I'm one of those people that thinks it's like why, if you don't have a conscious partner, it's not consensual. Absolutely amazing, Jonathan says. Johnny says, wow, what a great answer. Very helpful. Thank you so much. You're welcome. I do my best. So Canary says at Ryder, I suppose I can see it bringing out something that's all there already. Jonathan says, yeah, I swore my bad. Canary says, I don't know why it said Mexico. I figured you were not in Mexico. I don't know. Use the emoji, Canary says. Ryder says, others again say that the love spell does not work on human hearts. Well, I think we've beaten this horse to death at this point, and we can move on and not talk about love spells anymore. So ask me other questions. I think we've made it perfectly clear to the poor person who asked the question where we're at. And again, they have to decide for themselves what they're going to do. So that's fine. Yep. So what do we want to talk about now? I wonder why they all came to my room last night. Was there something going on astrologically? We're in between phases. Like the full moon's coming up on the 20th. Yeah, so we're like in between a waxing moon, so there doesn't seem to be anything like that. Maybe it has to do with the fact that I slept in my Egyptian necklace and my kyanite crown the night before, or 2 days before. Maybe I opened myself up to that or something. I don't know. Desert Autumn says, I wanted to recommend a book called Egregores by Mark Stavish. It was a very good read, super informative. All right. Soul says, have you read Astral Dynamics by Robert Bruce? No. I've just been astral traveling my entire life. I once started to read a book from Paul Twitchell about astral realms, and the first chapter was filled with so many warnings and dire consequences and terrible things that I might meet that I stopped reading the book immediately, because I figured if I finished reading that book, I would probably never get out of my body ever again for the rest of eternity.
And I kind of felt the same way as Menorah about that book.
You read it too?
Yes,
Part of it is like,
yeah, it's part
whoa.
of that Ekankar stuff.
Right.
It's like, wow, you know?
And you know, I mean, I'm 71, and so I've been at this and doing this for a while. So I'm sort of out of the phase of reading a bunch of material to try and figure out stuff. I'm just sort of at doing, being stuff at this point. Although I did start reading a little bit in one of my fairy books. While Ian was troubleshooting our sound thing, I was in here with him so that, you know, we could have feedback or whatever, and I could talk and he could see if it was still echoing, etc. And so I started reading in my Violet Fairy book and discovered that a lot of the first stories started off with, as I was leaving church, or, and she went to Mass, and I thought, okay, those are obviously written after the time Christianity came to Ireland, so those were out. Then there was something about a yogi, and it was sort of a Middle Eastern kind of thing. It had nothing to do with fairies or anything. It was a yogi wanting a princess and trying to capture her, and like, okay, that was weird. So I'm still, you know, wandering through a few things like that, but my intense, like, reading, trying to understand and figure stuff out phase is pretty much past at this point. So I think it's great that there's books out there, and it's good that people, you know, are reading them and so forth, but I'm likely not to have read them. Johnny says, did the Fae and Elementals bring any messages last night? No, they were just like checking in, and they want to make sure I can see their differences, it seems, and they're trying to see if any of them will scare me. You know, they're trying to figure something out. I think they're training me to be able to sit comfortably with the variety that has come about lately. You know, some of their energies were somewhat intense, sort of like kind of thing. Some of their faces were pretty intense too, like very intense eyes. But like I said, some of them were very soft and relaxing, and they were all different sizes and different types. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was a tree creature of some kind in amongst them, and a couple of the gnomes that I've seen before were there, and then the little flying one. The guy who was upside down seemed to be a bit of a clown and was having fun. I have no idea for sure exactly what type he was, but I thought it was pretty funny that his face looked so weird, and it was trying to figure out why his face looked so weird, and then I realized because I was seeing it upside down, so he has to have been hanging and looking at me from over my shoulder. So I'm just trusting, you know, it's like I have enough wards in my room that I'm not worried about something coming in that's trying to harm me or thinking of harming or whatever, or anything like that. I did have that one night where I was really mad at somebody, and I had that angry face, and I banished the angry face and told it to go away. Because no angry faces were allowed in my room, even if they were ones I made myself. So that was kind of interesting. So, you know, it's just, and then there's many times they just leave me alone, so. Jonathan says, thanks, Canary. I got Siofra to say the F word a couple of times. I guess times have changed while I was gone. I try not to do that on our channel. It's not that I don't do it in person. XCOM Jack X. What is the best book of magic? Well, I mean, it depends on what kind of magic you're interested in. I'm sure that there's good books on different types of magic. I mean, magic covers such a huge subject. Emily says, do you think telepathic signals can come through in other means? I.e., my boyfriend and I were fighting, and I was looking up and had a feeling he was coming back, and he came back and was upset I had honked. Well, certainly people have telepathic links between them all the time. Now that my granddaughter is staying with us, we were watching a TV show the other night, And then I was asking Ian a question about something, and then a follow-up question, and then she's sitting there and she's going like, well, that was exactly what I was going to ask him. And as the thought formed in my head, the words came out of your mouth. So she's noticing the the telepathic link that's going on between us, and definitely, yeah, Ian and I do that constantly. Like, we'll be watching a show, and then I'll tell him the name of the character or the name of the actor or whatever that's in the show, and he's like, I was just going to ask you that. And every so often I just blurt out a random answer, and I don't know why. And then he looks at me, he says, why did you say that? I said, I don't know, it seemed like I should. He says, well, I was just going to ask you a question that's the answer to. I'm like, okay, good, we got that settled, no problem. Canary says, oh yeah, we got all posh and dignified. Emily says, the car horn at him, which I hadn't. Do you think come back can translate into a car horn? Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Because, messages come through our other senses sometimes, so I think that's likely. Apparently, that was an interesting little, it kind of was a separated thing that sometimes happens, where you get the first half and answer the first half and then find the second half and then go like, oh, okay. Yeah. Jacqueline says, yay, I made it. Yay, you made it. I'm so glad. Canary says, decided to be open as a witch now. I have moved, left my stuff up even more, got more to decorate, including my Reiki diplomas. My Catholic granddad came in and was like, oh, crikey, can we sit in the kitchen? I guess he was uncomfortable. And Jonathan says, Canary, yes, you have, and Ryder has 5,000 spells now, so it's not beginner magic anymore. We went and got advanced. Yep, Emily says, Roses and Rot is a very good fairy book. Okay. Canary says, it's like coming back 3 years later, I suppose. And Ryder says that Jonathan, I usually create my own. There are some really good spells in that book, giving me a lot of inspiration. Definitely. Soul says, I've had many entities in my room at night, scared the wits out of me for several days, but I'm starting to get used to them. Yeah, isn't it interesting? Maybe there's something coming, it's like, and they're trying to like get some of us ready to like whatever it is. Or maybe it's just individuals. Who knows? But I think there is something like that. So Jonathan says at Ryder, that's exactly how I use it. Amazing inspiration. Desideradum says there's a video in the Manly Hall collection about the astral realm and its inhabitants. That's really interesting. I've been too terrified to astral travel since I was attacked by entities. Well, I'm so sorry. I had one where there was something out there and I wasn't sure what it was. It looked like, well, I'm pretty sure it was a thought form, and it wasn't actually an entity, because with my first husband, he created this sort of universal story or whatever, where we were aliens, came here, and similar to the Scientology thing, and there was like a despotic ruler, and this guy was like one of the soldiers that he had described, and I had a spontaneous out-of-body during the day. It's like I was taking a nap or something, and I peeled off my body down to my feet, and then I saw this thing sort of floating over my body. We were like, head to head, kind of like this, floating above me. And I said, well, I'm not going to stay out here if he's out there, and so then I got back in my body. And now I'm pretty sure it was a thought form from all the stories that my first husband was telling me, and I was sort of incorporating them without knowing it, kind of thing. But getting attacked is definitely not good. Shay showed up and said, no angry faces allowed. Yes. Canary says, any good books that are mostly based on incantations? Incantation books. There's a lot of books that have incantations in them.
One of my favorite ones was always an old one called Rites from the Crystal Well, but That's not just a book of incantations.
Right, they have general rituals for the Wheel of the Year. We got our hand fasting ceremony out of one of them. There's a couple of them. There's at least 2 books, I think, of theirs. That and we used the hand fasting ritual and didn't really modify it much at all because we liked it so much. But so I guess not. Jane B says telepathic links were the first weird things I noticed about myself. Yeah. Desidratum says, I would like to be able to see into the astral realm during paranormal investigations while meditating. If I can do that during the walkthrough, and if I even have that skill or can develop it. Okay, well, that would be something, when I'm doing a paranormal walkthrough, I'm looking into the spirit realm, which is kind of right next to the astral realm. It's so yeah, sort of your third eye, working with your third eye and getting that open is going to let you see the things that are behind the things that you notice. And with the astral, you get the emotional content. So working on empathic abilities helps quite a bit, as well as telepathic abilities, because that way, if you meet an entity that doesn't speak English, for example, like I have a couple of times, then you can get visual pictures, like a picture story, and then you can get the feelings that go with the pictures, so you can interpret what it is that the spirit is trying to tell you. And it's really useful information because it gives you a path to follow if you know why they're there and what happened to them or what they are. It's definitely a good idea. So work on that, I guess. Mimosa says, what do you think about using plastic and metal in witch practices? Well, I use metal quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with metal, and usually the athame is metal.
Yeah, plastics tend to be sort of dampeners as far as energetic stuff goes, so I tend not to use plastics in any of my magical practices. I go with natural substances as much as I can, stone, wood, bone, and metal, basically. Shell, things like that have a natural resonance. I don't mind using like a dyed crystal, for example, because although I prefer to have them not dyed and altered in that sense, I don't know that a color actually, adding a color to a crystal changes its intrinsic properties. I think it's just like an aesthetic appearance type of thing, but energetically might be completely neutral. So I haven't worried about that, but when I'm buying crystals and things, I'm definitely always looking for the most natural form of whatever it is I want that I can get. Good news on the plastic fronts, though. There's a lot of research in mushrooms right now that may help us to dissolve plastics. We already have mushrooms that will eat diesel fuel and turn it into soil and allow things to grow in it to help with spills and stuff like that of oil and whatnot. And we also now have a mushroom that they're investigating that could break down the filter cigarette, which is a big, huge thing for people who smoke and they're like live forever. I mean, those things don't degrade. And so there's definitely some research going on out there to help the natural world break down things that we have created that are not natural. And so I find that very hopeful, and
It is. Yeah.
I'm very happy that the research is coming along in that direction. Well, that's gotten quite windy.
Yes, it has.
We're having a windy day. So, Mimosa says it's been on my mind lately. Canary says, I'm okay with how my granddad reacted. I was expecting a lot worse. Jonathan says, Soul, I like you. I'm glad you joined this marvelous community. XCOM Jackix says, are you afraid of entities? Not generally speaking. I've met a whole bunch of them, and I've only met a few that were dangerous or that I wouldn't have anything to do with. And being afraid of them doesn't actually help with self-defense. So,
Very true.
Yeah, being afraid is something I generally don't have happen. I can be cautious, alert, discerning, decisive, angry, all kinds of things. But fearful is not one of the things that usually happens to me, at least at this point. In fact, when I was attacked by whatever that thing was that tried to get into my body, I wasn't afraid of it either, even though afterwards I thought I should have been, which freaked me out. And so, yeah, fear is about the least useful response when it comes to dealing with anything like this. So I try not to have it. Soul says, Jonathan, thanks. I feel good energy from you. Canary says, did come out that my other grandparents had no idea I was a witch, so I don't know what their problem was with giving me exorcisms. Genuinely baffled, no idea what their problem is. I assume they found my tarot. Who knows? So John McMahon, another John, I saw a black cat run away into my bedroom this morning and vanish. Very scary. Well, it sounds like you got a ghost cat. We had that here. And it was a black cat too. It must have died in the neighborhood, and it actually was physical enough. It ran through the house and knocked over some stuff, and we were chasing it around the house and thinking it's one of our cats, because we had two black cats at the time, and come into the living room, and our two black cats are sound asleep on the couch, and they're looking up at us going, what is going on with you? You guys are acting strange. So, it's an animal spirit, nothing to be scared of. Canary says, I got 2 black kittens just to be extra. All right. I like them in pairs. They like having company. Jonathan says, I'm really jealous of you people who can feel energy so much better than I can. John McMahon says, this one was like smoke. That's because it was not physical, I guess. Soul says, when you do a paranormal walkthrough, do you enter an altered trance state, or is it just you see them in your normal state? Yeah. Well, being in a semi-trance state is probably my normal state. So, but I have control over it, so, I don't have to do it all the time, which is helpful, especially when you live in a place that's got plenty of ghosts around and stuff. And usually I don't see them unless I decide I want to open myself up to being able to see them, unless I'm extremely tired and the sun is going down. That time of day, I have a much harder time controlling my abilities. So I guess it's sort of like being in a trance state, but not a kind of trance where I'm not aware of anything and everything going on around me. So it is like an altered state of awareness, but it is sort of my normal kind of state. I mean, I've seen things since I was little. And when I say I see things, sometimes I actually see things as physical as other things in the world are. But most of the time I see things like in my head, and then I know where they are, feel where they are, and I hear sometimes words, but more often I feel their emotions and connect with what's going on. And when I do that, and I drop my shields and so forth to do that, I know that I'm making a good connection when I start to cry. It's like, and when they're leaving, and I can feel it, and the relief is there, and it just overwhelms my body, and I'm usually in tears by the end because it's such a relief, and I know that they are relieved that they're moving where they need to be, if that helps. Ryder says, Jonathan, do you actually live in Africa? Just wondering. I think that's a yes. Canary says at him, sometimes you just have to recognize what you're feeling and that you felt it all along. Most people who are able to get deep into magic do have the sense. A lot of times it's just a matter of learning how to recognize it and distinguish it from everything else.
Yeah, and those abilities will grow with use.
Yeah. Desiderodum says, it seems like we're being made ready for something like a dimensional shift. A lot of people having paranormal experience they've never had before. A lot more than in my experience. It's a possibility. Soul says that Jonathan, I practice all the time on everything. Canary says that John, wow, interesting. I'd like to see that count. Count me jealous. Jonathan says, yeah, South Africa. My pet giraffe is loving this stream. Oh, that's so cute. I would love a pet giraffe. They are just so adorable. John McMahon says, Canary, my great-granny, seen the fairies in a graveyard dancing in a circle. A man told her not to go by, but she did, and seen them at a tree. Canary says, wow. Mimosa says, at Desideratum, I've heard a lot of word about a dimensional shift, people seeing unexplainable things, even those who don't practice. They think it's already in motion. Desideratum says, heat treating crystals can amplify. My thingy just went bloop and I lost my spot.
I'm sorry.
Now I gotta go back up. Apparently there are a lot of people who have been talking while I've been not paying attention. Okay. Heat treating crystals can amplify or heat up their properties. Actually coloring them I don't think has any effect on their nature. I'm a rock person and seem to get a good strong sense of stone's powers. Yeah. Jonathan says, more seriously, Africa is all ancestor worship and bone throwing. It's difficult to follow a Western tradition here because we have a different set of things to draw upon. I guess that would be the case. Canary says, since I've moved, I've stopped seeing stuff. Any tips on how to create that energy quickly? I'm missing the excitement. Well, you're going to have to tune into the new area that you're in. It just takes a little bit of time. I would use that as a way of taking a break. When I was younger, I did not know how to control anything, so I would move fairly frequently, and it would give me a 3 to 6 month break on having to know stuff about other people and seeing things all the time. So you'll tune into the area. If you meditate outside on the ground and do that to tune in, it might go faster, because I was doing it as an escape. So John McMahon says that Canary, she was really terrified after it happened. She never went that way again. Canary says that John, it's so sad that she was scared. It's sad that most people get scared. So Black Bebe Juju says, hello, I'm a new witch and wanting to know if some European and other practices, I'm a descendant of African slaves. All right, I'm not sure what the question exactly is. I have a bunch of videos on, so I've decided I'm a witch. What do I do now? You can try out. I'm definitely, Irish descent and living in the United States. We have some people who are in Africa, and yeah. So there's a lot of different kinds of witchcraft out there. Marie Rohrer says, is there a ritual you could suggest for letting go of a person? Much love, and I hope that life is treating you well. Well, that would be, if they're not dead and they're alive, an unbinding spell. You can also do like letting go of a connection with them with a candle spell kind of thing. You can visualize a cord between you and that person, and you can actually wrap a cord around yourself and hold the cord and out towards them, and then cut the cord and then bury the cord in the ground to let it go. You can write what you want to let go of on a piece of paper and burn it. Be something to do. Marie, yeah, that's one I just did. Okay.
I had a massive weird.
A glitch.
Yes, I'm having a glitch at the moment.
Poetry in motion. See her gentle sway. A wave out on the ocean could never move that way. It's nice. I like that. I love every movement, and there's nothing I would change. There's no need improvement. She's much too nice to rearrange.
Oh, this thing,
Having glitches.
every time I try to do something, I was trying to mention that we got the video. You'll see that when you get there.
Okay.
But I'm apparently not able to type anything.
Poetry in motion. All that I adore. No number 9 love potion could make me love her more. I'm thinking this is a song. John McMahon says, Canary, we think if they see you, it's really bad luck and they could take you. I disagree wholeheartedly when it comes to the Fae. I think that's church propaganda.
I think I have to log out and back in.
Jonathan says, I had a cat, it died. The night it died, I felt it jump on my bed and lie beside me. I only discovered its untimely death the next day. I've had that happen too. And John McMahon says, they hate their party being crashed. I repeat what I said before. I think that's incorrect. I think that's an assumption that humans are making and placing upon them rather than their actual feelings about things. Canary says, at John, I've seen a fairy once and it didn't seem to want to take me anywhere. He probably had his own stuff coming on. I don't think they would want us humans trashing their place anyways. And Canary says that Jonathan, it's hard to lose a pet. John Quinn says, speaking of cats, I have a semi-feral cat, a sweet little tuxedo cat who is sick but won't let me near him, so I can't get him to the vet. Have you ever done healings for animals? Yes. Done healings on cats. You might try distance healing on the cat if you can't get it, because the cats I worked on I've been able to hold, kind of thing. So you're probably feeding it food, so what you could do is charge up the food with some healing energy and you put it out, and then that way the cat will get it and also associate you with good things as well, and maybe help along with the taming process if it decides it wants to be tamed. So that would be a quick.
Yeah, put out a feeling of love towards the cat.
Moonfire Dawn says, I love mushrooms and really need some for my depression. And yeah, some of them are very useful for that. Ryder says that Jonathan, wait till the giraffe jumps on your bed. John McMahon says, where did you see it, Canary? In my bedroom. I see them. I just saw a whole pile of them. So if they're trying to take me away, they're still leaving me in my room at night. Because I had like 20 or 30 of them in my bedroom last night. So, my experience with the fairies are somewhat different than yours, which is good. We're talking too much, guys. Jonathan says, wow. Ian says, never too much talking. We just can't always keep up. It just takes me a while. I have to read everything. Desideratum says, did you guys get my email about the Kali statue becoming animated? Any experience with things like that? Yes, I got the email. We both watched it. We both had different opinions about it, which were the same opinion that we weren't impressed with the video. And I thought it was an optical illusion, and Ian thought it might be Photoshop.
I thought it looked like it was faked somehow, but you also have to give it the benefit of the doubt for the fact that it was kind of grainy and hard to see and wasn't really well exposed, and that could make it look fake even if it weren't.
Yeah, so, I was wondering why there was no one else there, and why she would only follow one person, and a bunch of other questions. But I personally have seen some of my statues move, and actually I don't see their eyes move, I see their head move. And I don't know that anyone else would see it. It could be like an astral kind of thing, like when we were at the open-eyed meditation at Yunanda Institute, and Chitandananda was sitting up on the dais. I actually saw his mental body separate from his physical body. His head turned and looked right at me, and then went back into his body.
Even though it was clear his physical head hadn't moved.
Right. His physical head his body hadn't moved at all, but then there was another head, and it turned and stared directly at me, and then turned back and settled back into the position he was in, looking straight forward. So
that commonly happens to people who meditate on their guru's pictures and things like that also, as their face will become animated for the person doing the meditation.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean it didn't happen or whatever, but it wasn't compelling enough to like sway me over and say, wow, that looked real, because it looked weird to me. It didn't look quite right. But that's just one opinion. And if you were there in person, then I would assume that you would know more. So John McMahon put a fairy up. Moonfire Dawn says, being sensitive is exhausting, John.
Can be.
Can be. Jonathan Church says, either Ryder or Canary called me out on feeling things. After realizing emotions are in and of themselves energies, I have started feeling things. Extremely rewarding, amazing, actually.
Cool.
Good for you. John McMahon says, that's right, Moonfire. That it's exhausting. Black Bebe says, sorry, I hear a lot in the Black Witch community. We have some closed practices. Wanted to know, is there any European practices that is closed as well? Yes, there are plenty of them that are. The entire Wiccan community, regardless of the style, whether it's Gardnerian, Saxon, Alexandrian, or I think there's a few other types, are totally closed practice. You have to be initiated into their practices. They have a lot of stuff that has been shared publicly through Gardner's writings and Doreen Valiente's writings and such, but they consider that outer court, not inner court, and so there are secrets that they share only with each other. So yes, there are closed practices. And there's probably some hereditary witches as well that have a similar thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the other styles of European magic, like the Romani and Stregia and stuff like that, have some too. So I'm not familiar with all of them, though. Canary says at Jonathan, I think it was a bit of both of us, but yes, you're right. Ryder says, a great thing I heard about fear: when you feel it, don't run from it. Feeling fear does not mean you are in danger or that anything will harm you, but that something is important for you to know. Well, it certainly is telling you to pay attention, so you know what to do next, if you can stay in it. Jonathan says, Canary, yes, I've had to take animals to the vet for euthanasia. The other day I had to mercy kill a dove. Always rough, more tears than I'm proud of. You should never, ever apologize for having strong feelings and caring. And tears are the heart's way of expressing itself. So you have nothing to apologize for, and you should be proud of them. So there. I'm just saying that. So there. So John Quinn says, thank you. Rosie Ray says, hey there, Siofra. It's been a while. I'm sorry. Haven't been by in a bit, but I hope you've been doing lovely. Yeah, we're doing pretty good. We're all right at this point. Canary says at Jonathan, why you should, she says the same thing. Here, see, we're on the same page. So there you go. You got it from both of us before I could see that someone else had already said it to you. So there. So, Ryder says, a basic example, asking someone out on a date can create fear. What is that telling you? What is important to you here? Feel the fear and do it anyway. Yes, it depends on what the fear is about. Canary says, Jonathan, I'm more emotional to animals than humans. Something I should probably not be proud of. I don't know, because, yeah, animals are pure. They're like, they have no subterfuge.
Yeah,
and so you don't have to worry. I mean, you don't read anything. Yeah, they're not going to try and trick you.
What you see on the surface is what you get.
What you see is what you get. Yeah. And Carrie says, "Oh, don't say this, guys. I just got my statues. My pillow with Anubis on it says glowed. It glowed for a solid minute. I looked up whether it was a light up pillow. It wasn't. Someone in the ether messing around with me. All right. Random lights. I love it." John McMahon says, I also think it's made up by the church, but I was just telling my great-grandmother's view from the early 30s and 40s Ireland. Good for you, though. Standing up for your grandmother. Writer says, Poetry in Motion by Cliff Richard. Thank you. Jonathan at Canary, I mistakenly believe it is my job to be strong so that I can be strong for my loved ones. Feeling is hard. It doesn't surprise me. Most people just don't bother with this practice. And that's programming. There's lots of programming to get rid of, and that's one of them that men have to deal with on a regular basis. Not just being strong and not showing feelings, but being a good provider, and the things that we use to measure our worth are often instilled in us from a young age by the society that we're involved in, and then having to reevaluate all those things and decide what actually makes a person worthwhile and what makes a life worthy to have had. And so that, being aware of that is a good thing. You want to know that. And Canary says that, Jonathan, yeah, but magic is emotion when you get down to it. Rosie said, aw, be proud of our feelings, love it. Jonathan says, stop it, you're going to make me cry, damn it, now I'm crying. Well, good, he has a wonderful heart. I love that. We touched his heart. Rosie said, someone told me that fear can sometimes indicate you're going in the right direction. That's true. Sometimes it's a warning. It just depends. You have to pay attention. Canary gave you some...
I believe those are hugs.
I think those are hugs. Yes. Saul says, I view fear as blocked, clogged up energy. Black Bebe says, thank you. I really try to respect everyone and their craft. There's been a lot of negativity between white and black witches. I feel that we should find mid-ground. We have both suffered, so we both understand persecutions for who we are. Being women, we have something seriously in common when it comes to persecution, regardless of our race and the other factors that can be added onto that, which are separate. Yes. Ryder says, fear can be used to your advantage if you're not afraid to learn. Doctors, police, security, military use it to their advantage all the time.
Very true.
Saul says, I threw all those things that society uses to define a man out the window. It's impossible being sensitive and adapting to the definitions that society imposes. I agree.
Yeah.
And whether you're a man or a woman, we've all been given these programs to determine the external things that determine. My granddaughter and I were talking about that just the other day, and how she's not into clothes and stuff like that because she knows no matter what she wears and no matter what she buys, eventually it's going to have a hole in it, which I thought was a very pragmatic view. Not that she doesn't like to look nice, but she doesn't want to spend her money on the clothes to look nice, so she's not caught up in that particular aspect of things, which is a good thing. Canary says, they're virtual hugs with hearts on the top. I have received my messages from people. Why am I sending pumpkins to them? Lindsay says, love this conversation. How do you suggest we keep up with our magical practice during everyday busy life? Well, for one thing, know that it's not a separate thing. Magic is everywhere, and everything that we do is imbued with magic, because magic is life. And so if you stop thinking that you have to do something special in order to be magical, that sort of opens up a bunch of opportunities. So when you're taking your break at work, and if you go out for a walk and go for lunch or something, you can pay attention to your environment, pay attention to the people that are there, what you feel from them, the messages the universe is trying to send you, interact with a flower or an animal. Breathe in the air and realize how amazing it is that we have air that we can breathe, and that the air brings in that magic. If you're having trouble in your environment during the day, washing your hands and visualizing that energy just going out of you and grounding you and stuff like that, and preparing yourself for whatever you might meet. When I go out to a grocery store and stuff like that, and I know I'm going to go in a big place, I have bracelets that I wear to protect me and protect my energy, and I'm geared up to go. When I go to my office, I'm there to work on my clients and to be there for them, and I have my office set up in such a way that happens. So, but when I was a secretary, and a legal secretary I was for like 15 years or so, when I would have my lunch break, I'd go to the local park. Fortunately, it was during a time when it wasn't raining, and I'd sit underneath a tree and meditate for part of my lunch for 20 minutes or so, which was probably in retrospect somewhat dangerous because I was in the middle of a park with a pile of people, but it was daylight, so I didn't feel too, potentially threatened. But it doesn't have to be like an either or kind of thing. It's like it's there all the time, and like notice an animal that's in distress, or notice a person that needs a hand, giving them a shopping cart or taking their cart from them so that they don't have to walk to go put it away. I mean, I consider all these things are magical acts. They're like, magic is about being awake and aware of being in here, in your life and in existence. And it's understanding nature on a different level. It's like, the more you can understand the natural world and everything in it, the more you see the hidden energies behind it and understand those, the better able you are to, like, move yourself through it in the direction of least resistance, in the direction you want to go, or get warnings when you need to, like, take a step back.
Yeah, you need to get in touch with the flow.
That's right.
Really, the flow
Flow.
of everything.
It's the flow. Get in touch with the flow.
It needs to be described by something.
Yes. All right, let me look up here.
You could call it the Tao. The Tao, excuse me.
Okay, so Mimosa thought that was a good question. I feel I could never move past the baby steps because I'm always preoccupied with school. Moonfire says, for me, magic is survival. It keeps me going. Black Bebe says, I'm still in the closet with my family and just told my husband had to explain it to him due to the negative myths. It's a little lonely in the closet. I hide magic I do for my family and Christianity. That's actually not uncommon with a lot of the traditions. Anyway, Santeria has got a lot of Christianity kind of stuff in it with the candles and the saints and so forth, and they use the Catholic Church to hide their magic.
More candomblé that it changes over to the Catholic saints and stuff, but
yeah, okay.
But you're right there.
So Des Drum says, unfortunately, that was the best quality video of it, but there were others at different angles, times. I kind of think if a video is that bad quality, they can't afford to fake them. Well, maybe so.
Which is another good point.
That's why I thought it was an optical illusion. Because there are certain things, it's like when you change the angle, it appears as if eyes are following you. They actually do that on purpose.
All I can say is, I wish I would see something like that in person, then I could actually feel like I had some sort of a real opinion on it. It's hard to tell with video.
Yeah, so Black Bebe says, it's so amazing how much magic is in the Christian religion. All my hoodoo works is in the guise of Christian practices. Yeah, they definitely have lots of it, there's no doubt. Rosie Ray says, magic helps me enjoy the little things as well as the all-encompassing energy of everything all at once. Yes, me too. Johnny says, when I'm in the classroom and the students are working, I just slow myself down and try to read the energy of the room. Sometimes I see little color auras and try to figure the messages. It helps me. I do that sometimes when we were going to restaurants before the pandemic, which I have not been doing at all. In our area, we are like the worst. I can't believe how many protests there are about wearing masks even, let alone getting the vaccine. And I'm feeling at this point it's almost as bad as it was when it started before vaccines were even available, because so many people are like so up in arms about protecting anyone else but them, and not even themselves. It's just like baffles me. So large gatherings, I'm not going. I'm not taking the chance. Not going to movie theaters, not going to restaurants. But when I did, that's one thing I would do. I sometimes went to the mall and watched people from different levels. One, as a massage therapist, seeing their gait, being able to see where their muscles were. And then sometimes as an energy worker to see where the energy blockages were and maybe how they match up. It's sort of interesting. But yeah, you can practice that kind of stuff. So Jonathan says, at Black, you're really not alone. And Canary says, at Blue Bebe, how so, if you don't mind. Mary joined us. Hi, Mary. Can you tell me anything about the symbols of the seed of life and the karma wheel, Dharma wheel? I just got a pendant from an artist and was called to this one and these on either side, but don't know much.
And I can't say much to that myself. I don't know much about the Buddhist side of things or their approach. Mostly my interest has been in the deities of India.
You can send us a picture of it and maybe we can maybe seeing a picture of it, we might have some ideas.
Well, I'm
But-
sure we could probably find something out.
Or
of it. Yeah,
something.
But
So Taryn is from Australia. Hi, Taryn. Been watching you heaps lately, and I can relate to your magical experiences. I see fae and dragons, spirits, and I have mental traveled with dragons. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other night. One guided journey I did, I ended up riding this dragon to the moon. It was pretty cool. And I saw the dragon the other night when I was wearing my kyanite crown and my Egyptian necklace when I went to bed. I think I asked for all those fairies to come without realizing it. So Canary says that black, been there only recently. I decided to stuff it. It's very lonely and isolating. Mary says, I had a Ganesha statue drink milk from me in real life. Wow. That sounds pretty awesome. Taryn says, hello. Come, Jack X. Jonathan says, Mary, every elephant isn't necessarily a god. But I think if she had a Ganesha, she was probably not talking about an actual elephant. That's a guess. Desiderata says that black blue jay, black bay, many kindred spirits both here and out there. Synchronicity will bring them to your path. I wish we didn't have to hide, but I know. Same here. Well, sometimes it's the necessary thing to do because you don't need people yelling at you and telling you you're doing something wrong. Johnny says, Ian, have you studied Tantra at all? And do you think it's the same thing as magic, just in an Eastern sense? Or an Eastern lens?
yes. The Tantra that I've been interested in is not the sexual type, but it's the tantric writings from there. So, and to answer your question, yes, it's all the same. Basically, it's all the same magic. It's just put into different frameworks and symbols that are more relevant to the culture that they live in. Now, I seem to be especially attracted to them and find they're willing to work easily with me, despite not remembering, but I may have had a past life in India. But yes, it's all the same thing. It's all every different magic and practice like that are all just different rules which form a different shape out of the same thing, if that makes sense. They're different ways of expressing the same thing.
Yeah, and he clarified that it was tantric writing and practices, not tantric sex. But you weren't approaching that anyway, so
Yeah.
I think he understood somehow what you were. And Canary says, I want to ride a dragon to the moon. It was way fun. He was a green dragon and, kind of smallish, and so it was easy for me to get up on his back and whatnot. Moonfire Dawn says, I was a Christian witch most of my life, but friends kept running to the church and turning into buttholes, so I avoid those archetypes now. Yeah, same thing happened here. Not with being a Christian witch, but the other part. Mary says, this was a Ganesha statue at a Krishna temple during a yoga teacher training. There was a milk shortage in India because a lot of statues started drinking milk in India. Interesting. Soul says, everything is energy. The systems we use are just the interpretation lenses we use to view it from certain perspectives. Absolutely true. And that's the thing. That's the point of this, is to find your own set of symbolism and way to interact with the universe that works for your culture, your brain, your processes, where you are at in your development, and so forth, because the universe doesn't really care what symbols and things that we use. It's just trying to adapt to where we're at.
Yeah, and a lot of times those things will act as filters for what, if you'll excuse the phrase, the divine spirit is trying to tell us, whether that be your guardian or whatever you want to apply that to. But a lot of times it has to come through the human personality to be expressed, so it's expressed in ways that fit the person that it's coming through, if that makes sense. It sort of gets shaped into a certain mold depending on the personality of the individual.
So Jonathan says that Sada Guru tells a fun story about a southern Indian who didn't understand the difference between an actual elephant and the god. By the way, did you guys ever meet Krishnamurti? Very wise man. No.
No.
Didn't meet him.
And I haven't heard that particular story, but I'll look for it.
Desiderodum says that Jonathan and Mary, there are warnings from Buddhist lamas about nature spirits, and unenlightened spirits will sometimes inhabit statues for energy and attention. Careful, please. Well, there's always potential for something to happen no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, and it depends.
I think if you're pure in heart, it's not, don't have to worry about it too much.
Yeah, generally, yeah. Yeah, that's about all. Sorry, I don't really have anything to add.
I'm glad that stuff is helping with your pain levels. That's definitely a good thing. So think kindly on us as we, well, I guess we'll see you one more time before that happens. Yeah, so, and we'll have to get to Jonathan's other questions another time since it's already been an hour and a half.
I hadn't noticed.
Yep. So, yay. This has been a very lively session. Thank you very much. So, thank you all for asking questions and giving your input and being a part of this community. And it's always delightful and fun, and we thoroughly enjoy our weekly get-togethers here. So, yes, it did go fast. And you're all very welcome, and you can always contact me via Siofrasmagicalcove@gmail.com if you have other things you want to talk about, or send me a friend request on Facebook. If you do send me a friend's request, send me a little message to let me know who you are and that you're one of our viewers, so I don't automatically assume you're just trying to scam me, because that seems to happen. So, so anyway, everybody have a lovely rest of your day, and hopefully you'll have a lovely week as well, and stay safe and centered and grounded as much as you can. All right? Bye, guys.